Okay, students, now we're going to start talking about a different kind of inequality, a compound inequality. Up till now, you've worked with an inequality that needs to satisfy only one condition. For instance, x only needs to be less than or equal to 7. That's just one condition that needs to be met. So we remember our steps. Step 1, we locate 7, correct? We locate 7 on the number line. Then step 2, we evaluate the expression, the inequality sign, so we know that it's going to be a solid circle. And then step 3, we plug in a number here to make sure that we can satisfy the inequality. So here we plug in 0. 0 is less than or equal to 7. That satisfies the inequality. So that means that every number to the left will satisfy the inequality. Well, now we're going to be talking about compound inequalities. Now your inequality has to satisfy two conditions. The words that you are going to see is the word and, the word or. So your inequality must satisfy and, which is going to be both conditions, or, which is going to be either one of the conditions. So let's look at the first example. It says x is less than 7 and x is greater than 0. So that means we have two conditions here, and the word in the middle is and. So we need to satisfy both these conditions. So everything is still the same, the steps are still the same, and we're going to take one inequality at a time. We're going to start with x is less than 7. We step number 1, we locate 7 on the number line. We evaluate the inequality, so it's going to be an open circle. And when we plug in a number, such as 0, 0 is less than 7, so that we know everything to the left will satisfy this inequality. Okay. Now, let's look at the second inequality. We have x is greater than 0. Step 1, locate 0 on the number line. Step 2, evaluate the sign, and it's greater than, so it's going to be just an open circle. Step 3, we plug in a number. Well, we can't use 0 here because 0 is not greater than 0. So let's use 1. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes, that is true. So that means that 1 is right here to the right. So that means our arrow is going to go to the right. Now, this is where you're going to see where your arrows overlap. Where the arrows overlap is your answer. So your answer is going to be here. It's going to be right here, in between here. This is going to satisfy both inequalities. And if you notice, when you're using the word and, you're in between the numbers, okay? Now let's look at the difference with the word or. Now we need to satisfy either condition. So now we're going to work with both. We're going to first work with x is less than -2. We're going to locate -2 on the number line. We're going to evaluate the inequality, so it's open circle. And then plug in a number. Of course, 0 does not work here because 0 is not less than -2. So let's use -3. Is -3 less than or equal to -2? Yes. So again, we're going to follow our arrow, and we know it will be everything to the left. Now let's look at our second inequality. Step 1, locate number 3 on the number line. Evaluate the sign. Now we know that it is open circle. Again, step 3, plug in a number. 0. Is 0 greater than 3? No. So we know it's not going to be anything on the left side of 0. We're going to follow our arrow because 4 is greater than 3. So our arrow is going to be that way. Now, look at the difference between the two. With and, it's in between. It's where they overlap. With or, it's either going to be this way or that way. That's why it's either and or. So, let's look at this one. What compound inequality represents the phrase all real numbers that are greater than -2 and less than 6? And then we're going to graph the solution. Well, first of all, we need to write our inequality. All real numbers, and if you remember from the first video, all real numbers we can use as x, right? All real numbers that are greater than -2, right? And less than 6. Less than 6, if you can see that. So I just wrote my two inequalities, my compound inequality. So I need to find an answer that satisfies both of these. Both of these. So now let's graph. Let's graph the first one. We're going to locate -2 on the number line. Evaluate the sign, which is going to be open circle. Last, we plug in a number. 0. Is 0 greater than -2? Yes. 0 is to the right, so we follow our sign here. There we go. We graphed the first one. Now, let's graph x is less than 6. Step 1, locate 6 on the number line. Step 2, evaluate your sign. Open circle. Step 3, plug in a number. 0 again. Is 0 less than 6? Yes. We follow our arrow. 0 is to the left of the number line. Okay, so now where is our solution? Everything in between satisfies both inequalities. So everything in between is the solution to both of these inequalities. All right, let's look at the next one. What compound inequality represents the phrase all real numbers that are less than 0 or, we have an or, greater than or equal to 5? And then we're going to graph the solutions. So again, all real numbers is x, less than 0, then we have the or, and then we have greater than or equal to, 5. So now we have our compound inequality, and now we're going to graph. Let's look at the first one. Step 1, identify the number 0 on the number line. Step 2, use your inequality sign, evaluate it. It's going to be open circle. Step 3, we plug in the number to make this to satisfy this inequality. Of course, 0 doesn't work, so let's use -1. -1 is less than 0, so that's true. -1 is to the left, so we follow our arrow and we go to the left. Okay, next, let's look at our second inequality. We have x is greater than or equal to 5. Step 1, locate 5 on the number line. Step 2, evaluate the sign. So we have greater than or equal to, so now we know that's a solid circle. Step 3, plug in the number. Always use 0. Is 0 greater than or equal to 5? No. Well, 0 is to the left, so we know none of those numbers satisfy the inequality. So we follow our arrow and we go to the right. Again, notice we have the word or. So either one of these will satisfy this compound inequality, and the arrows are going in opposite directions. Okay, so now all real numbers that are greater than -4 and less than 6 inclusive. Inclusive. What does inclusive mean? This is a vocabulary word. So I want you to write it down. Inclusive. Inclusive means that you're going to include both numbers. So when we include both numbers, if the first one is all real numbers that are greater than -4, all real numbers that are greater than -4, if we're including -4, we must draw the line underneath. And less than 6. Less than 6, we're including 6, they're both inclusive, so this means greater than or equal to, so we're just adding the equal to sign. Okay? So now, all real numbers that are greater than -4, and there's that key word again, and. Okay? So if we're using the word and, we're going to, sorry guys, my mic is going in and out. We're going to graph each one individually first, okay? Then we're going to see where they cross on the number line. It's in between. Now, here's something new. Since this means in between, since and means in between, watch this. You can write this compound inequality like this. I have my x, right? Greater than, less than or equal to 6, greater than or equal to -4. What did I just do? I combined them. When we use the word and, that means in between. The x is in between the -4 and the 6. Aha, and you notice how they're both pointing the same direction. Okay? So now when you graph this, you're still going to graph it the same. You're going to locate 6. Evaluate your sign. It's inclusive. Remember, we're going to include it. We're going to locate -4. Fill in the circle. Now, since we know that it's and, we can, and x is in between, we know that it's everything in between there. This is new. You can graph them separately, right? Draw your lines, see where they intersect. And now you're going to be required to rewrite it like this. Okay? That's new. Now, we're going to be talking about solving a compound inequality involving and. Okay? What are the solutions of -3 is less than or equal to m minus 4 less than -1? Oh my goodness, what is this? Okay? This is a compound inequality. There's the word and. So you see, this is in between the signs. But now we need to solve for m. We need to solve for m. There are two ways that you can solve for this. Two ways that you can solve for this. The first way, write them as separate inequalities. You see that? I wrote them as separate. M minus 4 is in between the signs. M minus 4 now becomes to the left. M minus 4 becomes to the right. And we solve these just as normal. We add the 4 to this side. We add the 4 to this side. And then we get an in between where we graph. Okay? So let's do that.
Please excuse this interruption, but here are your daily announcements. Students, please remember to turn in your lunch applications as soon as possible.
So here we have our two inequalities. Okay, this one has the less than equal to sign. This one just has the less than. We graph them the same. We locate 1 on the number line down here. We locate 3 on the number line, and then we go in between the numbers are the solutions. That's one way to solve it. Now, watch the second way. I don't need to separate this. What I'm going to do, be very watchful, I'm going to add 4 here, add 4 here, and add 4 there. I'm adding 4. I'm keeping my balance on the right hand side over here. I'm keeping my balance on the left hand side over here. I'm adding 4 to the middle, to the right, and to the left. These cancel, correct? Now again over here, I have 4 minus 3. 1 is less than or equal to M is less than 3. That is the same answer as here. Same answer as there. I have M in the middle. It's an AND inequality. AND. So it's in between. So you need to graph this in your notes. What are the solutions of -2 less than 3y minus 4 less than 14? Graph the solutions, okay? Same thing, okay? I have this in the center, okay? I have this in the center. I'm going to use the shortcut. I'm going to add the 4 to both sides. Watch this. I'm keeping my balance. I'm keeping my balance. Okay, so over here, 4 minus 2. Okay, 14 plus 4, 18. I bring my 3 way down in the middle. 4 minus 2 is 2. I'm not done. I don't have y by itself in the middle yet. So what I'm going to do now is divide. I'm multiplying, so I'm going to divide. Right? I kept balance. I did it on all 3. So now here my 3's cancel. I have y is less than 18 divided by 3 is 6 and 2/3. That's it. My y is in between, so my solutions when I graph it will be in between. Okay? You can solve these separately if you want. Pull them apart. 3y minus 4 greater than 14, and then on the other side, -2 is less than 3y. Pull them apart and solve them that way. It's the same thing. Oh, excuse me, the 4. Okay, it's the same thing. I'm going to add the 4 over here and divide by 3. Add the 4 over here and divide by 3. Now, solving a compound inequality involving OR. Well, that's simple. You're just solving 2 inequalities. Nothing has changed. When you graph them, your arrows will go in opposite directions. There's going to be nothing in between. This is the same way we've solved. Now you just have 2 to solve. Okay? Here we would subtract 2 from both sides. A -7 and a -2 is a -9, right? Then we divide by a 3, divide by a 3. The 3's cancel, and I have t is less than -3. Or I go to the other side. I subtract 5, nothing's changed. I bring down the -4t, that cancels, less than 1 minus 5 is -4. Then I'm dividing by a -4, dividing by a -4. These cancel, t, and then I flip my sign, and a negative divided by negative is a positive. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So now when you graph these, you're going to locate -3 on the number line. You're going to locate 1 on the number line, and your arrows will be going in opposite directions. So you just graphed inequality with OR. What are the solutions of this? Now this is the same thing, I'm going to let you guys complete this in your notes. You're going to solve the left side first, and you're going to solve the right. Oh, wait a minute. This one's a mistake. Negative 2y plus 7. This is a boo-boo. So we're going to skip this one. It's missing the inequality sign on the left. So go ahead and skip this. Last but not least, we're going to do this in class together tomorrow. I want you to write down this question in your notes. I want you to be thinking, how am I going to solve this? We solved one almost identical. This is concerning average and test grades. Read the problem, write it in your notes, and think about how we're going to solve this in class. Remember, you must have a summary. If you have questions, you must write the questions. Your notes must be including examples and the things that we discussed in this video.